Hey guys, welcome into our informal weekend news wrap-up. We're here in a random park because we wanted to go somewhere nice, but it's Black Friday weekend, guys. What do you want from us? We're not braving the crowds here in Cambridge. It's like the Noah's Ark just descended on Cambridge. But looking at the weekend just been, a couple of things we want to focus on. The first thing is this. In Iraq, you had a massive terrorist attack, a suicide bomber. ISIS has claimed credit for it. So even though the forces are closing in on Mosul, even though the forces are closing in on Raqqa, which are ISIS strongholds, they still are going about the business of causing sectarian tensions. That's one of their biggest goals in the region, in the Middle East, is to, bomb Muslims, bomb Shia, and to create, sectarian civil war. So tragedy there. Staying in the Middle East, we've got Israel. I don't know how many of you know this, but Israel has suffered massive arson attacks. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like, if you don't know much about the Middle East, one of the basic fundamentals that's been in the Middle East for the past 70 years is basically the Arab nations versus Israel. And that's kind of taken a back seat in the last few years. You might even say since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, but definitely since sort of ISIS has cropped up. But don't forget that this is always laying behind in the background is this whole issue of Israel's existence, the state of Israel, their politics versus Arab nations and Arabs' claims to Israel's land and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be there. That's pretty intractable. People are saying there should be a two-state solution, but that's becoming less and less likely. It's a tough situation. I'm a realist, and I can say there's no way I can give you the right answer for that situation. Moving on to France. France actually foiled an ISIS-planned attack that was going to take place in Paris. They arrested 5 people, and they confiscated some automatic rifles. So, you always hear about it. The intelligence services always get credit or the discredit when something bad happens, but not a lot of people give them credit when things like this happen, when they prevent a terrorist attack. So good on the French intelligence agencies. That's really good. We've got South Korea, but the president's approval rating in South Korea is a whopping 5%, which, I don't know if you know this, not a very good approval rating. The reason why, she's had a really close acquaintance of her, almost like this cult-like status, pulling the strings and doing some manipulation behind the scenes, and you've seen the biggest demonstrations in South Korea since the 1980s. 1.5 million people are expected to show up in Seoul tonight in protest. They're calling for the Prime Minister to step down. Just a massive, massive scandal there. And last but not least, Fidel Castro died today. Now, he was a thorn in America's side for ever since 1959, I believe, is when he came into power. And the first time we tried to get rid of him was the Bay of Pigs invasion. That was completely botched. The CIA tried to assassinate him numerous times. Basically, he's been a thorn in the U.S.'s side because he's been undermining U.S. authority in Latin America, in Central America, and even in Africa to a certain extent. He's beloved by his people, but at the same time, he hasn't brought, let's say, prosperity. There's universal health care, there's universal access to education, but there's also rationing for toilet paper and books, and not a lot of infrastructure has been built up. They're still driving cars from the 60s. You can blame that on the U.S. embargo, but you can also blame that on Castro himself for having very, very poor central planning. But you can't deny that he was one of the big figures in the 20th century and definitely in the Cold War. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope you're surviving the Black Friday weekend. We're going home now. Until I see you again, remember, reality always trumps ideology.